Yesterday, not far from our New York City studios for iHeart, where Buck broadcast for a very long time, and where I have been and used those studios, and where our crew is that you hear us talking with all the time, there was a shooting about 6:30 p.m. Eastern. It appears that the shooter was in some way targeting the NFL, according to a 3-page letter that was allegedly left on the scene. I've not seen that full letter excerpted, but a former high school player of football drove all the way from Las Vegas to New York City, went to the league offices in Midtown Manhattan, that is the NFL, and reports are that he then got on the elevator and went to the wrong floor. 4 innocent people killed, including a police officer who was working as a security guard and several other innocent people. And then this individual shot himself in the heart with his gun and said, "Study my brain for CTE." That is the report that is out there. Now, you would maybe be a little bit surprised over who exactly the shooter was if you were watching CNN and they decided to say during the course of their coverage that the shooter was possibly white. This is cut 9. Listen to this.
Was his face visible? I mean, do they have any idea at this point who he is?
They do not know who he is. They know he is a male, possibly white. He's wearing sunglasses. He appears to have a mustache. And that picture has been distributed to every police officer in New York City.
Okay, Buck, you used to react to live incidents such as these on CNN. The picture of the guy, and we try to avoid saying the names of mass shooters because there's evidence that it encourages their behavior. Picture of the guy, he is clearly not white. So let's start here. As a real-time breaking news analyst, how can you explain this in any way other than this is CNN, white people are to blame for everything? Would you, am I drawing too much a conclusion here based on the picture? When I looked at it, I'm like, that is not a possibly white man.
Well, would you think, you have to think, what does possibly white even mean?
Yes.
Right? You would think either probably white or not white. I don't think that possibly white would be a phrase that would come to mind. But I think that CNN, in their breaking news coverage, especially, there's a playbook that they run in their news coverage of any horrific mass shooting. And it's either get the story out as fast, get the details about the shooter out as fast as possible, and then transition rapidly into scoring political points, right? So, he's white. This is Trump's fault. This is MAGA. This is white supremacy, right? That's and if he's white and used a gun then it's white guy, gun control, MAGA, Second Amendment. There's all these things that they will immediately jump, even if it's going to be wrong and clearly a jump to conclusions moment for them. They want to jump to the conclusion. They're looking for the opportunity to jump to the conclusion. Whereas on the other side, if it is a non-white male and does not have a motive that immediately can be ascribed to him that fits in an anti-right wing, particularly a white supremacist or anti-Trump rubric, then you got to just say, we may never know the motive. We don't know what's going on here. Let's not rush to anything. And this is just what they do because this is really their worldview and their politics on display every time an incident like this happens. So, I mean, we can walk through the specifics of this, and I think it's worth just looking at the layers of security and what happened here. But I can tell everybody, I think the security conclusion that most people would come to for what happened here is you can't stop some maniac who has access to a gun from going in and shooting people. You can try to make it harder for that to happen. But this case, you had an armed NYPD officer who unfortunately was killed in the line of duty here. Tragically, left behind a wife and children. But he was there.
Twin sons, Buck, and an 8-month pregnant wife. That is the New York City police officer who was shot.
But my understanding is he was shot in the back in the lobby. So it doesn't matter who you are. If you're in a civilian area, you're a cop, and someone comes up and shoots you in the back, there's nothing there's no way that you're going to be able to stop that threat unless you get eyes on this person in advance and are able to draw down before they can hit you. So there wasn't really a lot here from a security perspective. I think the bigger conversation immediately is that this guy had a couple of mental health flags, and mental health, just like a whole bunch of public policy issues, runs a huge spectrum. Right, there are tens of millions of people in America who have some mental health challenge, and I think you could argue that everybody has some level of mental health challenge at different times in their lives, grieving with loss of a spouse or a loved one. You're in a horrific accident, you got trauma. I mean, we're talking about somebody who's nuts. Okay, this guy is crazy, clearly insane, and a danger to himself and others. And we live in a country now, we live in a society where, thanks to leftist maniacs like the ACLU, who want to kick at the load-bearing walls of our civilization and see what happens, you basically can't lock up anybody anymore for being a complete wacko who's a danger to himself and others. It is almost impossible anywhere to get that done. We have emptied out all the asylums, and you get people. This guy's angry at the NFL, never played in the NFL.
Yeah, played high
Has
school.
nothing to do with the NFL.
Has no connection to it at all. I also think this is significant in New York City because one of the biggest elections we're going to have this fall is the New York City mayor's race. And guess where Mamdani, the lead New York City mayoral candidate for the Democrat Party, their nominee, is at a Ugandan compound right now because he was born and raised in his youth in Uganda. He has surrounded himself in Uganda with private security. This is a guy who said that cops were basically unnecessary and that we should have counselors, domestic counselors or social workers who are showing up at scenes of violence and trying to negotiate with the would-be perpetrator, including domestic violence incidents, which unfortunately often spiral into incredible danger for the usually women who are calling to report domestic violence related incidents. And so I do think that it is yet another staggering hypocrisy that the guy who thinks, hey, social workers should be called to solve problems in New York City has his own private security detail, which is very armed, surrounding and protecting him on his Ugandan compound, which is where he is right now while this incident is playing out. So I think New Yorkers, again, I have said that I think that Republicans and reasonable people should not necessarily save New Yorkers from the idiocy of their choices. The consequences of their selection of a nominee is real. And the fact that you pick a guy who was not an American citizen until 2018, a guy who was born in Uganda, and basically a card-carrying member of the Communist Party to represent the biggest city in America seems like a really poor choice, but it's the choice Democrats have made. But this guy, to me, this incident crystallizes. I would also point out, this is, you lived in this area. This is two major, I would say, violent attacks that have happened in Midtown Manhattan. I know Luigi Mangione, who everybody's kind of forgotten about now, executed in cold blood the United Healthcare CEO on the streets of Manhattan. And now you have this guy driving all the way from Las Vegas, walking in and trying to kill as many people as he possibly can. This is, I gets a lot of attention, I understand, because New York City related events are covered more than shootings that happen elsewhere. But I do think this is where people sit around and say, okay, what's going on with New York City? Can we in any way keep the streets safe, even Midtown Manhattan, which is ostensibly supposed to be a very safe part of Manhattan?
Well, where this happened, it's in a building where the Blackstone Group, which is one of the most well-known private equity firms in the world, is located. The NFL headquarters, obviously, is there as well. And you have a lot of people. It's something of a crossroads. You have a lot of people who they think of Wall Street as down on Wall Street. That's actually original Wall Street is more of a tourist area now. There's not that much in the way of finance. Most of the big finance shops are in Midtown, actually, either on the west side or the east side. But right where this is, there's a number of very large financial institutions that are headquartered there. So you just have a huge number of people, Clay, in these office towers coming and going all the time. I have a cousin who missed this shooting in terms of being on that street by 10 minutes. I have another, my cousin's husband works at Blackstone. So, a lot of New Yorkers know people by maybe a degree or two of separation, know people who are right there at this building. I mean, if you think of, this is not an office tower like it is, like a standard. This is a big, big building, a lot of people, and a lot of people coming and going from this area. It's also a place where you see very little crime. There tends to be a pretty heavy police presence. And the fact there was an NYPD officer in the lobby, it just goes to show you that, they had that, they had secure entry, they had procedures and precautions in place. But if somebody with a rifle who knows how to use it doesn't care if they live or die and wants to go shoot a bunch of people in a civilian area, it's a soft target. It's going to be very, very difficult to stop that, certainly every time, or even a majority of the times. So I don't think that there's really much in the way of a security takeaway. I do think there's a bigger conversation in terms of what could have been done differently. I haven't seen anything yet. It's not like the police response was super delayed or slow. It's not that there wasn't anyone there. There was a good guy with a gun there. This guy got the drop on him and then killed a bunch of other people. Didn't kill a woman who came out of the elevator, kind of let her go on video. So this guy's a maniac. And now we'll look back and we'll see how known was it that he was a maniac. But I don't think, Clay, there are any takeaways from this about what would make people in New York City safer, other than this is it's like a horrible, it's just a horrible situation that took lives for no reason. And I don't think that there's anything that we can do to prevent bad people in society from killing people. Unfortunately, you can try. I'm saying all the time, right? I mean, yes,
Yeah.
yes, have the good guy there. Yes, have the security precautions, and I'm sure that stops things. Look at we just talked about the good guy with the gun stopping the mass stabbing from
Traverse City
continuing,
in Walmart,
but he couldn't
yeah.
save everybody from being stabbed, right? So this situation is a very difficult one to defend against. That's I think one of the big recognitions that we have on this. We'll talk more about this also. I saw, Clay, there's been more discussion of it, including from the media, and then there's media discussion of that attack in Cincinnati. We talked about the stabbing, but there was the attack in Cincinnati. The police chief has weighed in on this. So we have a bit of a law and order based first hour here that we'll get into shortly. But if you run a business, staying connected to your employees is critical, especially if they're spread all over the country. Now, yeah, there's Zoom, there's conference calls, but what about times you need to spontaneously get a message out quickly, instantly? That's a time when rapid radios are really the tool you need. Modern day walkie-talkies that will keep your team connected at the push of a button. Rapid Radios connects to a nationwide LTE network, allows you to talk to as many as 200 people at once with the push of a button. Rapid radios don't require any setup. Just pull them out of the box, press a button, and talk. They're compact, lightweight, and carry a 5-day battery charge. They're an excellent alternative to cell phone communication. Rapid radios are 100% private with no monthly fees or subscriptions. Visit rapidradios.com to save up to 60%. Get free UPS shipping from Michigan and use code RADIO for an extra 5% off. That's code RADIO when you go to rapidradios.com.